Drake Booth is typing. What is he going to say? Okay. All right. Are we ready? Okay. So we're going to talk Linux auth and auth. What are the difference? Let me tell you. Here are the things we're going to talk about. There's a list. So authentication versus authorization. So authentication is like, are you who you say you are? So if you have an ID badge, are you really that person on the ID badge? Probably, because how else would you get the ID? But this is like when you give a password for a username, you type the username, and then you prove that you're that user, because only that user would know that password, theoretically. And authorization is, do you have permission to do the thing? So if you're like, I want to delete the entire box, and if you're not root, you're probably not allowed to do that. Okay, so if you're wondering how authorization usually works, is that you can go from down to up, not very easily, but you can start at the top and go down very easily. Like if you're root, you can go to anyone else. But if you're anyone else, you can't go to root. Whatever. What are you guys doing? Okay. Whatever you say. Sudo is a classic. You type sudo and it's like super user do. This is not substitute user do. I suppose it could be if you pass the U flag, but I don't think that's what it stands for. Oh, I guess it is. Okay, well, anyway, you can think of it as super user do, because normally when you type sudo command, it's like, give me your password, and then it runs it as root if you type the password right. And then in this case, command was not found. Unfortunate. However, su is you log in as another user. So if I wanted to be root, I could su root. And this time, it's not my own password that I'm putting in, it's root's password. Or if I wanted to be like, I don't know, what's even used on this box? If I want it to be SSHD, it'd be like, what's SSHD's password? Obviously, I don't know what the password is, so it's not going to let me have a good time. So that's like logging in as that. When you sudo someone, you load all their profiles and their bash RCs and whatever crap they have. So like everything in etc profile, depending on the type of shell, that's a file. Everything in this, everything in bash.bashrc, everything, oh, don't like that. Everything that normally runs when you log into a shell. All right, so consider this. You are a peasant, and then another peasant comes up to you and is like, you are now a king. Is that valid? Probably not, because the peasant does not have the authority to make you a king. So let's say you're a peasant and you're talking to your peasant buddies like Sudo and Su, and you're like, hey, I want to be root. And they're like, you're root now. And you're like, how'd you do that? The trick is that they're a setuid. So normally when you run an executable, the executable has permissions of you, right? It's your permissions. But if it's setuid, then it has permissions of whoever owns the file. In this case, root. So if you hit me with the lslaw which su, you can see that it is setuid, the little s right there, because it's root. So when su says that I'm cool and I've passed the conditions for becoming root, it just gives me it because it has the power. So if there's an exploit in one of these setuid binaries, that's really bad. Does that make sense? Great. And a quick side note, UID or RUID and UID, these are not weird grunts. These are effective UID and real user ID, which only really matter when you're running one of these aforementioned setuid. So if you make like bash setuid, for example, you know what, I'll do it. Oh, also you guys can SSH to this box. I forgot to tell you that. Wait, no, you guys can do that later. So let's say I'm root and I'm like, oh, I already did sudo before, so there's about 5 minutes of time you can do it without having to type your password again. So, you know, I'm a madman. I'm going to put that's user plus setuid for bin bash, and type bash, and it's like, you're root. But if I wasn't root, and then you see it gives me this weird prompt, just like on the Cyberstorm image we did. And then you're like, well, it launched bash, right? Because that's the shell and etc password. This is the thing at the end of the line. That gets run when you launch as the user. That was setuid, and it's owned by root. So why am I not root right now? Right? I'm a peasant. I'm Cyberlord. Any takers? What? Magic. Okay, probably not magic. We haven't discovered that yet. But actually, bash looks at your effective user ID and your real user ID. And if your real user ID is lower, or I guess higher, than the effective UID, like, it's not going to give you a root shell. It's going to drop your permissions for security. But security is fake, because if I'm Cyberlord, I can just run bash with -p, which means preserve, and then I'm root. You see the little dollar sign turn into a hash, and now I'm root. Hacked. So I hope that made sense and wasn't just me rambling. Welcome to PAM. This is not the spray nor the female from the office. This is pluggable authentication modules. It kind of sucks, but also kind of good, question mark, TBD. Anyway, you're going to see it everywhere, and it's really ugly. And if something goes wrong with it, it's really hard to tell. So essentially, each time there's like some kind of action or some kind of service wanting to log in, it goes through a certain configuration file, and then it runs modules for things. Modules, things, stuff. Great. If you want to hop on this box and hang out with me, you can. Oh yeah, let's get the log going. You can hang out with me at Cyberlord at devsec.club port. Actually, that's port 4017. I changed it. So if you try 4015, it's not going to work. And then the password is pass from bang, of course. Now we vibing. You can ignore this threatening ASCII art. That's from previous thing. Don't worry about it. So assuming you're chilling on the box, if you want to read the man pages, you can. They're very verbose, but kind of cool, I guess. We'll see more useful man pages later. So let me lay these facts down for you. There are 4 PAM whammies. You got, well, these are the module interfaces. So these are the 4 main actions or types of interfaces to PAM. So you got number 1, auth. So if we hang out in the etc PAM directory, we'll see that. Be gone hashtags. We'll see that these are the things. Let me just make it full screen. So you got auth required, and then this crap, and then you got auth, 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 auth. So these are all things determining whether a user can log into a system or not. And then you have account, which makes sure the account is not expired. So you might see this in probably common password. I can't read anything. Never mind. It's somewhere. There we go. Common account. So account required PAM permit. So that doesn't really make any sense, but it will later, or your money back, which is nothing because this is free. And then the session sets up the session. So when you see like auth log, session created, or stuff like that, that's that. And then here's some more things. These might look like a continuation of this, but it's actually completely different because it's the next word. You got account or whatever, one of these. You got one of these, and then you got one of these. Make sense? Maybe. So if you say auth required, okay, sorry. If you say auth required, then if it fails, then everything fails. It's a no-go. If this is required and it's not fulfilled, you're dead. If it's requisite, and then it still fails. It's pretty much the same. There's just something about like waiting till the stack. I don't even know. I didn't understand when I wrote it. And then sufficient is like, if it succeeds and nothing else does, we're chilling. But if it fails, who cares? And then optional is totally ignored unless it's the only one there. So you're probably only going to see required and requisite sufficient because optional is lame. So here's the breakdown on that. Let me open up common auth again. So in this file, you might see auth required, PAM UNIX. So obscure use auth token, try first pass off 512, remember 10, min lane 14, rounds equals 65536. That's so catchy. That's like a song. So this is the interface. This is the control flag. So it's saying a required thing for this file to run auth is that it runs this module, PAM UNIX so, with these parameters. So in this case, it's saying, remember 10 previous passwords, min length of 14, and this is like encryption rounds or something, I don't know. And this is SHA-512, so don't use like MD0 or whatever crap hash you might have configured. Here's another one that is not a default library. You have to install libpam cracklib. And then you might put retry 3, min lane 14, etc. And these are flags for seeing what complexities you want the password to have. And we have a sample checklist out that basically has these for competitions. So let's take an actual look at one. So default Manjaro etc pam d su. So this is run when you run su. Makes sense. So if we read it, we see the first one is auth sufficient pam root ok.so. So that's saying sufficient, if you remember, is if it fails, no one cares. If it succeeds, bingo. So if you're root, you're okay. These developers are really great at naming things. So if you pass the first one, then it just succeeds. So this is saying if you're root, you can sue to anybody you want. And it goes from top to bottom. And so the next one, this one's commented, so we don't care. Next one is saying auth required PAM Unix so. So if you're not root, it does the normal PAM Unix login method. So right, like if I'm a peasant user and I try to sue to another peasant, it's going to ask me for the password. And then after that, it does like a count, making sure it's not expired, and then setting up the session. Make sense? Great. Pop quiz. I changed it. What does it do now? That's right. You didn't think you'd be quizzed in our local DefSec, but you are, and it's worth your entire grade. Any takers? Oh, you guys suck. Okay, so this one is saying auth required PAM Unix so. So the first item is now, if you fail PAM Unix so, then you're done. So root now has to type people's passwords too, which is quite unfortunate because root privilege is often gone unnoticed. So that basically borks it. So here's the previous one where it says auth sufficient root okay at first. So since it goes top to bottom, it's like you're root, you're good. But now if you're root, it's going to be like, give me the password and all your money. So you saw PAM Unix so, you saw Cracklib, you saw root okay, you saw wheel, which is for non-apt-based systems usually. And here's some other ones. You want to run a command when someone logs in? We can do that. Why not? If you want to show people that they have mail, run some PAM mail. Secure TTY, that's a weird file. Actually, let me see if I have it. I think it's etc secure TTY. Yeah, there you are. And it's like a bunch of TTYs. So if you're trying to log in from root and it's not in this file, then you're going to be dabbed on if you run that thing. So it's going to be like, nice try logging in as root, loser. Now you can't. Haha, secure. If you want to only let people log in on Tuesday, PAM time. PAM Cracklib is pretty useful if you want to make sure people aren't putting password in bang. However, I support password in bang, therefore I will not install it. And here are a bunch of other things. Basically what I just said, except now it's on the slide instead of my voice. So stealing user passwords and using your module as a backdoor sounds kind of spicy. We might want to talk about that. Luckily, I thought about that, and then I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so PAM persistence number 1, PAM exec backdoor. Let's take a quickie look. So normally, well, I don't have a normal one, but normally this line at the top, auth required, let me get my pointer. Normally this line does not exist, right? Looks kind of suspicious, especially because it has backdoor in it. Rule of thumb, I don't trust binaries with backdoor in the name. So this one is saying the required first thing is you run PAM Unix, and that this is a, what was it called, a flag or a parameter that says take the password and just give it in standard input to whatever file is next, or the executable. So this runs user local bin backdoor with the password as a as standard input. And then if that fails, then you can't even log in. So don't make if you're red teaming, don't screw up. And because if this returns a non-zero exit code, you'll just completely break the box for su and sudo. And then the next one is random garbage, right? Success, PAM Unix so, null case secure. That's normal. That's just saying give them the password. And then random things that I don't care about. And then the last one is fallback if nothing else succeeds is deny. So if you use your hacker brainlets, what if we change deny to permit? Aha, eureka. Well, that's not this one. This one is PAM exec backdoor. So here's an example of me suing to root, and then my password getting inserted into temp LOL. So that's actually the box that we're on right now, because I'm lazy. So if you see right here, here's all my typos and all the passwords I put in. Nice. So here are all the passwords that have been put in right now. So if I escalate to sudo again and then I change SSHD's password, So I'm changing their password to password1 bang. Oh no, I guess I'm not. Password2 at. I made another typo. Oh no, I didn't. Then if I'm peasant user number 1 and I try to sudo sshd, even though they don't have a login shell, so it won't work, and I type my password2 at, and it kicks me out, right? But if I check temp lol, haha, cyber, the final frontier. So that's an exec backdoor. If we're trying to uncyber this, oh no, I logged out. There we go, we're back. If we want to ameliorate this, we can go on pam.d common auth, and I don't know, maybe try removing the exec line. And if you want to just find all of them, you can just grep recursively for pam exec. So nothing else. Secure, 100%. Number 2, PAM persistent PAM deny backdoor. So like I said before, the PAM deny means you get canceled. But what if it was an uncanceling and you were permit? Never thought about it, huh? So that's one of my favorite things to do, is you just copy PAM permit to PAM deny. And then they're like, why are my passwords all correct? So let's demo this, but only for a little bit because I'm kind of, this is internet exposed computer, so I'm kind of not vibing. So first we locate PAM permit, and it's in like some weird directory, that one, security. And then we'd be like cpf PAM deny, or PAM permit, PAM deny. Haha, unsecured. So let's say I make another shell and I'm like ssh root. I don't think this will work because I don't have permit root. Maybe. And then I slam my keyboard. Security. Now every password works. So anyone on the internet who wants root can have it. So that's pretty uncybered. And same with this, if I'm like, and I'm just chilling on the box, and I would be like, you know what, I'm root now. Hacked. So does that make sense? Great. I just replaced the deny with the permit. So if you're doing different boxes and you're like, why does BSD hate me? It's probably because you don't know how it works. So just be aware that some things might not be how you expect. Like if you're a Ubuntu whiz and you go to Debian and you're like, sudo not installed, I'm being hacked. That's probably because sudo's not installed by default. So you should just be aware that other people do things differently. And here's the log file from var log auth. And if you read it, now the words are words that I've said and words that you've probably heard. So it makes more sense, theoretically. Right? Right? That's the PAM words. Great. Side note, if you want us to use PAM with your services probably already use PAM. But if you don't, then you can probably turn it off. Like SSHD has this use PAM thing, which if you turn it to no, it will respect you and not use PAM. And also man pages are cool. If we do man SSHD config, it's like here it is, all the information you could ever want. And you can also do man, like if I wanted to learn more about PAM exec, I can man PAM exec. And it's like, here's your exposed auth token. You want passwords? We giving them out. And if you're interested, I don't know if I showed it on the slides, but here's the backdoor. I half stole it from some guy on the internet. So this is just reading from standard input. That's usually standard input, the dash. Oh. So securing it is really hard. So you need to make sure that one, PAM is legit. And you can do that a few ways. You can run debsums, which will compare all the packages installed by dpackage on the system with the hashes that are found in the apt whatever. So of course, if red team is smart and they modify the hashes as well, that's unfortunate for you. You can also reinstall PAM and all its modules if you just want to send it. And something that's really cool is you can PAM auth update force. And if you run the command, you don't know what it does. Oh, it does tell you. And then you hit enter, and it replaces the configs with better configs. And you should also catch any PAM backdoors if you're just like reading the files, or if you're monitoring for like weird things like, oh no, someone runs backdoor.sh every time I log in. That's kind of unfortunate. So you should catch it. Any questions? Yes.
What if red team replaces your dev sums executable?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Maybe you shouldn't have got hacked. Yeah, that's valid. You should. I don't know. If you're really paranoid, you can take like a hash of it at the start of the comp and then like compare everything in bin. That's a valid strat. But mostly just hope they're not mean. Any other questions? Cool. Yeet.